Have you ever had a project derailed by something that you didn't see coming? A tech glitch, a supplier delay, a stakeholder U-turn? That's not bad luck. That's unmanaged risk. Today, we're diving into project risk management, why it matters, how to speak its language, and how to turn theory into tangible mitigation plans. I'm Dave, and welcome back to Project Management 101. Risk management isn't just a checkbox on a governance form. It's your radar. It helps you spot risks early, it helps you steer around it, and it helps you keep your project flying straight and true. Done well, it gives you fewer surprises, better decisions, and helps you build much stronger trust with your stakeholders. Think of it like this. Project management is your flight path. Risk management is your turbulence map. You can't stop the storm, but it helps you navigate the way that you fly through it. So when we're talking about risk, generally as a project manager, we'll be at the forefront of creating a risk log. I'm going to describe what I think is really important to capture in a risk log, just so you can implement it in the real world. A clear risk description, no vagueness. We'll cover this in more detail later. Impacted objectives are also worth calling out. Think about any impacts to the cost, time or quality. The likelihood of the risk occurring is equally important. How likely is it to occur? Up next, the severity. How bad will it be if the situation occurs? This is really important, so we call that the severity. Then the proximity. So how close to the timeline where we are right now is this risk likely to occur? So if it's quite imminent, it could come to fruition within the next couple of weeks. That's very close, and therefore very close from a proximity perspective versus much further away. So it could be in 6, 12, 18 months time, depending on the size of the project. So we describe that as proximity. So up next is risk score. As project managers, we times the likelihood by the severity to come up with a risk weighting score. We use a 5x5 grid to help make this easy. In larger organisations, you might see a slightly different grid that's much bigger, but it's the same principle. So if the thing's very, very severe, we'd give it a score of 5. And if the thing's very, very likely, we'd score it a 5. When I times those two numbers together, it gives us a risk score of 25. So that's our upper limit, and then we can work down from there. So it's just a good rule of thumb. When we're doing this, we'll score our risks, so we deal with the most urgent things quickest, a bit like when we're doing project prioritization. I'd recommend Googling a 5x5 risk matrix, as it'll help you to visualize what I'm talking about whilst I have popped it up on the screen. So another good thing to add to your risk log is the risk owner. This might not be the person that helps to solve the problem, but it's the person that owns it on behalf of the organisation. That could be a company director or a senior leader in the department, whereas the person that actions the risk and helps build a mitigation plan, we could call them the risk actionee. And finally, we want to think about the risk response and the mitigation plan. So when we're thinking about this, we want to be super specific. A supplier could have a delay due to a customs backlog. That's quite specific, versus there could be a delay, which isn't very specific. In this context, precision turns anxiety into action. So thinking about risk responses, under project management framework, especially in the waterfall different teachings, we have a number of risk responses. So I'm going to pop them up on screen as I talk about them. So the first one is avoid. How do we avoid the risk altogether? What do we need to change in our plan to stop this coming to fruition? The next is transfer. So we might think about how do we transfer the risk? We could do that by moving the impact away from the project itself. So that could be, can we take out insurance? Can we work with a different supplier to shore up the plan? Can we get a different contract in place? Can we outsource the issue to allow us to continue to proceed without facing this risk? The next one is mitigate. How do we reduce the likelihood or the severity of the risk if it impacts us? So what steps can we take to help to mitigate it? And then the final response is accept. We can live with it. We probably want to monitor it closely, but maybe it's not as severe as we might think, or maybe the severity will grow as time goes on, and therefore monitoring it is really important. So they're the 4 risk responses. And then, as I touched on earlier, there's the golden triad: severity, likelihood, proximity. So severity, how bad will it be if it happens? Likelihood, how likely is it to happen? And proximity, how soon could it happen? So like I touched on earlier, using the risk score, understanding our risk responses, and maybe thinking about where we've got really severe risks will allow us to focus and prioritise on going after those first. And that's part of our job as a project manager. I touched on this in my project organisational skills video. I'll pop a link up in the corner. You should watch that and just think about how you can use those skills to help with your risk management, because they're going to be great. So up next, for me, this is probably one of the biggest learnings I had around risk management early on in my project management career, and that was the use of the risk breakdown structure. Now let's zoom in on how to actually write a risk, because how you frame it dictates how well you'll manage it. Forget vague one-liners, use this structure instead. There's a risk that if a trigger happens, an event may occur, leading to an impact. So, if a trigger happens, an event may occur, leading to an impact. So here's an example. There is a risk that if I cross the street without checking, there could be a car coming and I could be run over, leading to injury. Did you see how I broke that down into the trigger, the event, and the impact? So, in my world, I'm going to think about some triggers. So, if my supplier misses a milestone, that's my trigger. The event may be the component that I'm expecting won't be available for integration, and the impact of that could be a 2-week or longer delay for completion of my project. So this structure helps you spot root causes, link risks to actions, and helps you communicate more effectively with your stakeholders. It's not just writing risks, it's engineering foresight. So now we understand all of the language, we understand different ways that we can score it, prioritise it, we've talked about how to break it down. Now we've got that, it's time to act. Mitigation plans are where risk management earns its keep. Here's how. Prioritise your top risks. Define clear actions. Who does what, by when. I touched on it earlier. Think back to the project organisational skills video where we talked about being proactive. This is the time to use it. I'll pop another link up in the corner just in case you missed it earlier. You should also think about any contingency or links to project buffers that you might have built into the project, which gives you some room to deal with a risk or helps with the mitigation planning. And you should monitor and review regularly. It doesn't matter how busy you are, find the time. This is really important. So a mitigation plan isn't a wish list, it's a mini project plan that you execute to help keep your project flying straight and true. It encompasses clear deadlines, owners, and actions that all need following up on, so take the time and drive it forwards. Now it's important to remember, after everything we've talked about, risk management isn't about fear, it's about foresight. It's how you lead with confidence when the project's facing uncertainty, and as the leader of the project and the project team, it's really important that you can turn up confident, calm, measured, and help the team through it. I'd love it if you drop me a comment. Let me know what was the riskiest thing you've ever faced on a project. How did you handle it? How did you lead the team through it? Let's learn from each other. I'd love to hear all about it. Make sure you like and subscribe for more practical advice in project program and delivery management. I'm Dave. Thanks for watching Project Management 101. From chaos to clarity. I'll see you next time.